and our mission trip. I think I'd shortchange you if I just showed you the mission trip, which is great within itself. But if you get a little bit of background about the Christian Motorcyclist Association and who we are and what we do, I think that will help. So, real quickly, the Christian Motorcyclist Association started a long time ago. It started from a country, rural pastor in Arkansas. His name was Herb Shreve. And he had a teenage son, and the son was kind of drifting away from him. He was losing control of him. And Herb prayed about it, and he thought the Lord told him to go buy 2 motorcycles for him and his son to start riding and going to the motorcycle rallies. Well, they did that. He bought 2 motorcycles. He and his son started going to these motorcycle rallies, and they saw lostness. Those rallies were full of sin. They're still that way today, pretty much. But God put it on his heart that he thought maybe he should start a ministry, but he didn't want to do that. He kind of rebelled, but they kept going to the rallies and going to the rallies, and in 1975 he just finally gave up and told the Lord he would start that ministry. He started the Christian Motorcyclist Association. 1975, 49 years ago, a long time ago. Let me tell you what it's grown to from a man and his son. Today, there has been over 180,000 members in that 49-year span. There's 1,416 chapters in the United States, and we're in 38 foreign countries. Motorcyclists going out and sharing the Word of God. Our primary ministry is to motorcyclists. That is a lost people group here in our country. And it's sad to say, but it's true. We go to where they are. We go to befriend them, to look for opportunities to share the gospel. And God provides those. It could be through anything. It could be through, I've been to the hospital. We've been called to the trauma center at AU many times. There's a biker down there. They need somebody to come pray with the family. God presents the opportunities. And sometimes it's hard things like that. But we go and pray with the people and do whatever is necessary. Our motto is, here if you need us. And again, we're looking for that opportunity. How can we help you? Just like the church in our community. How can we help you? That's what opens the door. Our vision is changing the world one heart at a time through one-on-one ministry. During this riding, tonight's not the riding season, but I rode anyway. But during the riding season, pretty much almost every weekend there's something going on in the motorcycling world. We love to go to the Harley shop and set up there. We'll set up a canopy, and we'll put a table there with some things to draw them in. We usually have free coffee, and we have, in the summertime, cold water. I brought some things to show you some of the tools we use. Of course, if they get a cup of coffee or a cup of water, it's going to come in something that looks like this. It talks about the Christian Motorcyclist Association. It's got the plan of salvation on the back of it. We go to Myrtle Beach for Bike Week in May and in October. And in May, they estimate 250,000 people come to Myrtle Beach for Bike Week. If you've ever been there during that week, you probably didn't enjoy yourself because they take over. We set up at the North Harley shop and the South Harley shop, and we give away thousands upon thousands of these. But while those people are looking at, we have a chance to talk to them, to get to know them. We've met people out of the country that come to Myrtle Beach for Bike Week. That amazes me, from across the ocean. But many people from up north, the attraction certainly is the great weather, but they also want to come here and ride without a helmet on. As sad as that is, in South Carolina, you don't have to wear a helmet. And every year at Myrtle Beach, there's usually several that get killed doing that. That's probably not something I should have told you, but that's the reality of it. So, doing what we do, witnessing to bikers, looking for opportunities to share Christ. Every year, CMAers across the country, in the United States alone, actually have contact with about 2 million people doing what we do. And we directly minister to about 750,000. That means we prayed with them or something, did something to interject Christ there. And about 14,000, these are average numbers, about 14,000 bikers received Christ through that ministry. With those numbers in mind, it said that a CMA member somewhere in the United States touches someone for Christ once every 42 seconds and leads someone to Christ every 66 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That's an amazing number to me. In 1988, the CMA was approached about helping a pastor in Guatemala get a motorcycle. And the leadership, they prayed about it, and they thought it sounded like a good idea, so they rolled it out to now that was before we were in there. We joined 20 years ago this month. That was 1988, 36 years ago. They decided they'd go forth with that. and he started this thing called Run for the Sun. It's a ride where CMA members all over the country ride on the first Saturday in May every year, and we raise funds for that. Now, I'm not here tonight to ask you to contribute to that, but that's what we do, the first Saturday in May. And I'll tell you that it's been met with an overwhelming response. The first year they wanted to raise enough money to buy one motorcycle for a pastor in 1988. Ended up getting enough money to equip 22 pastors in Guatemala with motorcycles. A tremendous tool for pastors that walk and they don't have transportation to equip them with a motorcycle. We've had the opportunity to do that, and we did it in Uganda, and almost every time they cry. And they tell us, you're the answer to our prayers. We've heard it time and time again. We've equipped them with something they could have gotten no other way. But that's done through Run for the Sun. What I'll tell you is, of the money raised for Run for the Sun, CMA keeps 40% of it to run the ministry here in the United States. It's used in printing and distributing tracts and other evangelistic tools such as New Testaments and the spoken word, which is called it's the Gospel of John, but we call it the spoken word. This is the CMA Bibles that we give out. It's called Hope for the Highway. It's got this really cool, it makes it look like you're riding a motorcycle on the front. And almost all bikers will take one of those. But it's the New Testament with Psalms and Proverbs. We can't see this. This is the spoken word. It's like spokes on a motorcycle. Gospel of John. We give out just thousands and thousands of those. I've got just some of the tracks that we use, but this is probably our best track, and it's called a rag track. You know, a lot of times the bikers will come up to us and they want a cup of coffee or they want some water, but they don't want. A lot of times they don't want to hear what we got to say. So I say, well, how about take a rag? You want a rag, a polishing rag for your motorcycle? Well, take that. And it basically says, a gift from CMA. Got our logo on it, how to get in touch with us. Got scripture on it. And we tell them that's used to clean their bike. And then inside there's this track. It talks about cleaning up your life. There's a testimony of a guy named Rag Track Al. He took one of these at the end of riding season one year, and he got home and he put his bike up for the winter. He got it out the next spring and was getting it ready to go ride. And he saw that and he opened it up in his garage and he sat there and read it. And he received Christ. Months after he was given that. You know, God's timing is perfect, but it's also amazing sometimes. That's the CMA. So 40% of Run for the Sun goes to CMA. In 1988, we partnered with 3 ministry partners that have world-reaching capability, I guess is the word I would say. They just have a way of doing things that we can't do. And the first one's the Jesus Film. I think everybody here has heard of the Jesus Film. Some years ago, the state of South Carolina sent one to every residence. If y'all remember that, we received one in the mail. A Jesus Film was sent to every residence. It was a VCR, a VHS tape. I can't imagine how, you won't think that'll happen today, do you? Anyway, the Jesus Film's been translated into 2,096 languages. As of I looked this up just this week, and it grows all the time. I can't believe there's 2,096 languages. Tonight I'm still working on my first one, English. But it's been shown in countries all around the world. We're told for every $1 that we invest in the Jesus Film, 10 people will view the film and at least one accept. I'm going to show you a viewing of the Jesus Film. It touches my heart. I've seen it hundreds of times, and I'll let you watch it, let it speak for itself. But it's just very emotional to me. But this is what the Jesus Film is like.
Well, Ruth and I were asked to be a part of starting the projector for the first showing of this Jesus film. Just to know that there's people here who have never heard of Jesus, and now they're going to get to see Him and hear Him talk in their own language. And that's the amazing part to me.
And I was just awestruck by the number of people that were present. Probably we would guesstimate about 4,500 people came to the premiere, and we were just blown away by the numbers. For these people to see Jesus speak in their own Gamo tongue for the first time has got to be a great experience.
Nena ne amano ipatides. Tazelois.
Boy, seeing the Jesus film here in this country is just mind-blowing.
They were so focused, they hardly moved. Their eyes were just glued to the screen.
It just takes your breath away to see the emotion that the people feel, but also the emotion that it brings out in my heart to see it for the first time in this environment.
I thought, God is really speaking to them. They're not watching a movie. They're having an experience with Jesus Christ. He's speaking to their hearts, and they're responding.
They were just moved. You could hear them groaning when things would happen.
I just remember seeing some of the wailing and the children just sobbing and crying. And it just took my breath away. Just realizing what Jesus and the pain and the suffering that he did for us was just a little too much to bear.
To see the response was truly unbelievable. To see that they wasted no time initially. Once the first gentleman stepped out, it's as though they all came.
We were excited to see so many come, and most of them young men. What is more of a blessing than seeing people come to the Lord, I cannot think of anything better.
Seeing it means a lot to me. So the Jesus film gets 20% of the Run for the Sun money. Another ministry partner is, and to Uganda, this is the first time we've been a part of a Jesus film showing. It was amazing. It was just like they showed it there. Well, many of them had never... These folks go out and pick firewood every day and have to go get water at a pump and carry it. They live a hard life where we were at. For them to see a movie and see Jesus speak to them in their own language, it's unbelievable. It's just absolutely unbelievable. But what we witnessed was just what you saw there. They stood, the movie's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. They stood motionless with their mouths open, watching that movie and absorbing it. And a lot of people were saved. I'm going to get to the mission trip. I don't want to talk about that now. One of the other ministry partners is Missionary Ventures International. That was also a part of what we did. They equipped pastors with transportation. Vital tool for pastors to be able to get out and travel and do the things they need to do. Missionary Ventures, in the 36 years of Run for the Sun through CMA, we've equipped pastors with 8,841 motorcycles, 7,382 bicycles, 40 horses, 61 boats, 13 camels, 4 horse and buggies, 2 snowmobiles, 13 wheelchairs. In that 36 years, that's equipped over 15,000 pastors and evangelists and Christian workers in 111 different countries. Historically, for every type of transportation we give, for every piece of transportation we give, a pastor will go out and plant 10 new churches in the first year, and some of them will have as many as 180 new believers come in the first year alone. I've got a video, this one's much happier, of a motorcycle transportation. They're not always this difficult, but this one was very difficult. I'll just let the movie speak for itself.
Okay, we're here at the mouth of the Amazon basin, and we're getting ready to take a motorcycle right down this path, put it on a boat, and haul it up the Amazon to a village and present it to pastors.
What'd you guys just do?
We just about had a heart attack.
Carried a big wheel up the hill.
So it was quite an operation we had there. But we made it, praise God. And now that motorcycle, we carried the motorcycle, now the motorcycle can carry the gospel.
Ventures gets 20% of the Run for the Sun money also. The last ministry partner is Global Christian Relief, used to be called Open Doors, started by a man named Brother Andrew back in the 1950s. He was called God's smuggler. God put it on his heart to smuggle Bibles into persecuted countries, and he did that very well. To get the Bible to people who can't have one. Let me just read some of this. There are nations in the world where the message of Jesus is prohibited. In many of those countries, sharing the gospel will get you beaten, locked up, or even killed. Open Doors supports the Global Christian Relief supports the persecuted Christians in 60 of the most oppressed countries of our world. Each year they're ranked. North Korea has been #1 most persecuted country for many years. They have a population of about 25.6 million people. There's about 300,000 Christians there. Around 1% of the population is Christian. Global Relief gives those Bibles to those people who are so hungry for the Word of God. And it's in their language. We've seen videos of the deliveries of the Bibles. And many times they don't have enough for everybody. And the people rush it like they're hungry. I mean, literally hungry for food. And then what they'll do, when there's not enough Bibles, they'll take them and tear the individual books out of the Bible, and they'll take it home with them. And the next time they meet, they'll swap it with someone else. I fall under conviction of that because I probably have 6 or 8 Bibles within reach at home. I got 2 that I bring to church sometimes. I got them on my motorcycle. I mean, I don't read them all. But there's people in the world that want a Bible that bad. And they know that their life, if they're caught with it in some of these places, they're locked up or killed. So I got a video from Global Christian Relief about a woman named Rebecca. Well, I'll let it speak for itself.
My name is Rebecca. I live in the north of Nigeria. One evening I was out with my daughter, and on our way home we saw smoke rising above our village. We were under attack. There was nothing we could do to defend ourselves. My husband and I were married in that village. My wedding day, it was the happiest day of my life. Some members of our church gave us a wedding gift. It was a Bible. We read it together every day. And when our children were old enough, we read it to them and their friends. Let the little children come to me.
Let the little children come to me.
And do not forbid them.
And do not forbid them.
For such is the kingdom of heaven.
Such is the kingdom of heaven.
Matthew chapter 19.
Matthew chapter 19.
Verse 14.
Verse 14.
On the day our village burnt to the ground, my husband and my son were killed in the attack. I was devastated. I mourned for many months. Some of us were able to return to our village to reclaim anything that was left. Found a Bible. Parts of Genesis and Revelation were burnt, but the rest was mostly intact. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. All flesh is like grass, and all is glory like a wild flower. The grass withers and the flower falls off, but the word of the Lord endures forever. I still use this Bible. It reminds me of God's faithfulness. Naked I came from my mother's womb, but naked I shall return there. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. The Lord is a husband to all widows. I look to him for every need. This is what I am still holding on to.
Global Christian Relief has not given, delivered over 3.5 million Bibles to people just like Rebecca. That's what CMA does, Christian Motorcyclist Association. We partner with these three ministries, and we didn't plan that. God put these three ministries with us, and we just have a great collaborative effort there to reach the world for Christ. So glad that God brought me into the CMA 20 years ago. I'm going to ask Denise to come up now. We're going to look at the mission trip. I wanted y'all to see what the Jesus film really looked like, what Missionary Ventures looks like. Bring that paper up here. I went on my first mission trip with CMA and MVI in 2009. My daughter was still at home. She was a senior in high school. And I told Denise I wanted to go, so I ended up signing up and going to Nicaragua. And I came back and I told her, I said, when my daughter goes to college next year, this is something we can start doing. So we got very actively involved in it. Not bragging on me, I never thought that I would get to do the things that God's let me do. Uganda was my 10th trip. It was my 9th trip with Denise. We've been to Peru, Ecuador, Honduras, India, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Egypt, and Uganda. The Egypt trip was a trip with Global Christian Relief. We went there and worked with the persecuted church. At that time, it was like the 10th or 12th. It was number 10 or number 12 in the most persecuted in the country, in the world. Mm-hmm.
I think I'm loud enough. In that Gammo mission,
Jesus
film, one of the things in the long version said the older couple are the ones who sponsored that film. Anyway, he said, God is so good to let us do this. And that's how I feel about these mission trips. God is so good to let us be able to go on these mission trips, something I would have never thought would have been allowed to do, but God has just provided, and he's been so good, and he gets the glory for everything that we do. It's not about us.
Absolutely. Yes. That's for you. So when we signed up, we had to get vaccinations. Everyone we've had to get vaccinations for, but this particular one, they said we would have to take a yellow fever vaccine, and you could only get it at a, CDC Yellow Tag Center. Cindy probably knows what all that means, but I got to researching it, and there were only 2 in Augusta, and then I found out that they said if you were over 60 years old, and we are, they recommended you not take the vaccine because it puts you at greater risk for some other things you could get. Not yellow fever, but it just could cause things that they literally said it's not worth taking the vaccine. So I called Missionary Ventures up and talked to them, and they didn't know that. It was something new to them. They said, well, let us check with the missionaries. So they got in touch with the missionaries who were going to host us, Rex and Melinda Guyan. They'd been there 18 years. And they wrote back and said, well, they'll probably be, if they don't take it, they'll probably be okay. We haven't had a yellow fever outbreak in like 3 years. I'm like, God, are we really supposed to go there? I mean, we're not supposed to take the shot, but I don't want to get yellow fever. I'll be honest with you, a little fear crept in. I'm thinking, are we really supposed to do this? Wasn't too late to back out, but we prayed about it. We felt like we were supposed to go. We did, and everything worked out. We don't have yellow fever. So when you go on these trips, you don't know who you're going with. We met at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. We flew from Augusta to there, and at the airport, at the terminal, at the gate, that's where we met our mission team. They were there too, from all over the United States. CMAers. Right. CMA has evangelists for each region. There's 6 regions in the United States, and I'm sorry. She's always taking care of me. Thank you. This is our team. So I'm going to tell you who they are. Doug and Terry. Doug is the tall guy, right? It's not going to show up on that screen. Okay, he's the tall guy, the third from the left and the back, and that's his wife in front. They're from Oregon, and he's our regional evangelist for that region. Next to him is Linda, and Linda was from Arkansas. Pollyanna on the far left, she was from, Linda was from Texas. Pollyanna was from Arkansas. Robin from Washington State. Sue from Florida. Barbara from Alabama. And the two on the right, Randy and Ramona, they're really good friends. They're both CMAers. They were from Southern California. Now, I'll say from Southern California, you wonder about, but no, they were Christian women, and they just went on a trip just like we do. But we believe, and we know that God put that team together. We had the best time. But the trip was difficult, more difficult than we had ever planned. We were supposed to fly from O'Hare, from Chicago to Brussels, and from Brussels to Entebbe, our destination. Didn't work out like that. When we got to Brussels, there was a long, long layover, and I mean a really long layover. We had 2 meals there. We had lunch and dinner, and we still hadn't flown. And they put us on Ethiopian Airlines, and we flew from Brussels to Vienna, Austria, and stopped, and we didn't get off the plane. They put more people on the plane, and then we flew to a place called Addis Ababa. I might not even be saying that right, but I found out it's the capital of Ethiopia. Had a layover there, and then we went to Entebbe. So what was supposed to be 2 flights turned out to be 5 flights. We left at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, and we got there on Monday at noon. Good, right? We were wore out. Yeah. hadn't had a shower. Okay, I'll say it like it is.
We stunk.
Hadn't slept in a bed. Slept on benches in the airports. Ate airport food. I mean, we were exhausted. And you can look at that group that was there. They're not a bunch of young people there. It was grueling. It was physically grueling. And when we got there, let me show you that. No, this was us getting on or off the airplane in Ethiopian Airlines. When we got there, Wilson, who the missionaries had sent to pick us up from 10 hours away. Now, it was 10 hours from Entebbe to where we're going, and we're going by bus, and that's our bus. But there were some other things that played in. I'll tell you about that. Wilson is third from the left, and he loaded all of our stuff in the bus, and he takes us, well, this is a trip. This is leaving the airport to the next destination. That's just a street view. It's just the very rustic dirt roads in this town. Wilson took us to this place where we were going to get on a single-engine airplane. That's Missions Aviation Fellowship. It's a Christian ministry that does flights that gets people to places that you can't get to hardly any other way. We took about an hour flight. I always said I'd never fly on a single-engine airplane. That just concerns me. I always want to have a backup engine. But when we got there was no other choice. I couldn't go back, and the only way to go forward was get on this airplane and fly. I'll tell you, I was scared to death. This thing was so different. You literally had to weigh before you got on the plane. That's the scale that you weighed on. And
That's fun.
How much?
9 women had to weigh.
Oh, yeah.
On the scale.
And didn't want anybody to look.
And we all stunk.
Yeah.
And we all got in that little plane together. It's fun. I was worried at the beginning about had I packed enough clothes, but when you wear the same outfit for 3.5 days, not to worry about it.
Yeah, we were okay on our clothes. So how much could our bag weigh that went on there? Was it 20 pounds? 20 or 25 pounds? 25 pounds. We needed to carry, and we knew that going, that we'd carry a small bag just to get us to the next destination. So
The backpacks.
this is us walking to our plane. This is us walking to our plane. Yeah, okay. Single engine plane. This was our pilot, and he was a Christian, and he turned around and talked to all of us, scrunched in this little plane. That's what we looked like. 11 people and a pilot, and he said, I always pray before I fly, and I want to pray for y'all. And he prayed with us. Good. And I was glad he did, because I was scared to death. This is what our takeoff looked like. Scared. It did take off and it landed safely, but I was praying a long time there. So when we landed at another dirt.
I was asleep.
We landed at another dirt airstrip, and this was our vehicles that picked us up. We had 2 of those. Those were Toyota Land Cruisers, I think they called them, and they were taking us to go look at wildlife. Typically on mission trips, all the mission trips we did before, you go and do the mission, and then like the last day you go out and do like a tourist thing. But because of the logistics of this, and we did the tourist thing first. I didn't understand it, but that's what they told us we would do, and we did that. Again, we've been going for like 3 days. We're hungry, we're dirty, we're nasty, we don't want to sit close to one another. And we're going to look at safari. And they took us out. Yeah. This is us riding in this. This is some of the animals we saw. Y'all have probably seen all this on TV. This was my first time seeing this kind of wildlife. We were right there. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was some of the most amazing wildlife things. Okay, that was the first day. And I had many more pictures. I just wanted to give y'all a flavor of what we saw there. Then we went to this lodge, and it was a very nice place. We were able to get a shower and some food and some rest. And then the next morning, we had to be ready to go at 5:50 or 6:50 or something like that to go on the safari. That was what they had planned. This was the real safari. So this is some of the things we saw there. The terrain and all was beautiful. These animals aren't fenced in. There was just thousands of acres that they lived on, and all the animals just got along together. Denise is rushing me, thinks we're going to run out of time. We were that close to these animals. It was just amazing. Here, elephants. This elephant was in the road, and he didn't want to move. And our driver, he just started, it was like a standoff. And the elephant, he would pump his foot, and he'd flap his ears. And we're sitting in the back row. I think we're probably in the safest place in that vehicle. But he started racing the engine, and then the elephant just kind of backed down and walked off. But he got much closer. I didn't show you. He got this close. Yeah. He didn't like us being there. We saw lions. Lions. That lion was that close to us. That was out Denise's side, so I wasn't concerned. Another shot of a giraffe, but that's the Nile River in the background, you can see. And then more tourist stuff. We left the safari and we went and took a 3-hour boat ride on the Nile River. Right?
Yes, we did.
This is the boats we went in, and there was 2 boats. This is us in that boat. We saw hippopotamuses. I'd never seen a hippopotamus before, and the guy that was driving the boat told us when they'd start getting close, he'd say, we need to move because they love to turn the boats over. I said, I've seen enough, let's go. And then our destination was to see this falls, and it was called Murchison Falls, and it was beautiful. We turned around and went back. So that was the touristy stuff. Now the mission actually begins. This is where we were going to deliver transportation to pastors, and this was at the church. Doug was speaking that morning, our evangelist.
Before this, after we had our adventure there,
You need to turn it over, Bob.
Okay. I don't do this kind of thing. After we had our adventure there, we got on a van, and or whatever you call it.
That bus. That same bus that we were on
And we
earlier.
had an 8 to 10 hour ride, and we stopped to eat along the way, and the roads were probably the worst. I mean, we were like the vans like this going through potholes, and then it's like this, and you're doing that for 8 hours except for the time that you stop. And by the time we got there, we didn't care if we slept on the asphalt.
So Doug just kind of presented to these people. This is the only church we went to that was actually a structure, and I'll explain more about that later. Most of them met out in an open area under a shade tree because we're on the equator and it's hot there. It's really, really hot. Our mission there was to deliver 10 bicycles to youth leaders that work with the youth in the schools there, which are Christian schools, and then 6 motorcycles. You'll only see 5 there, but one of them's already been given out. And they're new motorcycles. We pray with these pastors and children's leaders, and this is with them when they got their bicycles. And then this is the pastors receiving their motorcycles. This is Pastor Charles. Denise and I got to present him his motorcycle and pray with him individually. That's something we like to do. This is a picture of our humble abode where we stayed for the, I don't know however many nights we were there the rest of the time. There's a mosquito net there. The mosquitoes are a big deal, so you want to protect your. Denise was sleeping in that morning. It was probably like 6 o'clock, but and then.
Good thing she didn't get up when you took that picture.
You're right. You're right.
You might not come back.
I might be in trouble now. This is another morning where some of the local pastors came and met with us, and our mission this day was we were going to go out into the villages. Just go out and go to people's, I'm going to call them homes, but you'll see them. We'll go to where they lived and present the gospel. That was the thing. Our group broke up into 3 CMAers and 1 or 2 of these guys to translate because it's a different language. So the guy, the second from the left, that's Cyrus, and that's who went with our group. So while we're riding the bus to get there, and that was another pretty good ride, maybe an hour, he looked and he said, he pointed at me, he said, "You're going to present the gospel and I'll interpret." And I went, "Oh gosh, I'm scared." And so I started going over, I said, "Denise, I know the scripture, but I don't know the reference." And we were trying to get it all together so we could just present. But it wasn't anything to it. It just went so smoothly when we got there.
But let me say this part too. There were only 2 men on our trip. There are 2 men, the evangelist and Kelly, and then the 9 women. Well, when you're in a country that, and our country does it too, but in a lot of countries, the man is the one who speaks. They really don't want the woman to speak unless she's the only one there to speak. So he got selected.
Yeah. So going back to what you said, even in the airports, Doug said, "I'll lead the group and we'll keep the women between us and you take the rear." So that's what we did. He was always at the front and I was at the rear so we could keep everybody together. Sometimes that's a challenge. So we got off the bus and we started walking to these individual residences, and that's Denise with the nice looking hat on, 1 or 2 up from the back.
Now, Sue's the one with the red hat, and I'm behind her. I had the really nice looking reflective hat.
Yes. But this is just us walking into these different, I'm going to call them villages, I don't know. This is our first stop. And that's what the people lived in, but they're not in there because it's like, I don't know, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, it's getting hot. So when you go to somebody's, I'm going to call it their house, their home, they're out under a shade tree. They usually have a tarp, and they're just out sitting on that or sitting on a bench to stay out of the heat.
And when you go there, the person who's speaking, the interpreter, who they're pastors, they ask first if you're welcome.
Are we welcome here?
Are we welcome here before you speak?
Yeah. So this is the first group that we witnessed to, and we had 2 salvations there. 2 people accepted Christ. And then this is another group. Same thing. Everywhere we stopped, people were ready. They didn't ask them, "Do you want to get saved?" Do you want to be born again? That's what they always ask them. Do you want to be born again? And it amazed me that they knew what that meant. This is a 3rd group. Yep. And a 4th group, we went to 4 or 5 different residences. Again, this is walking to these places. You can see the terrain on the side or the growth. I was concerned, I'm some kind of animal going to lunge out of there and get Denise or something.
So you was going to run.
Y'all can tell he was concerned about it, can't you?
Somebody's got to tell them what happened.
They're filming. Okay, I've got the evidence.
Okay, this was the spot where they're clearing land for a new church. I guess it will be a structure because there's not any shade trees there. And this is Doug. That's Terry. Is that Doug in the back?
Yes.
Okay, that's Doug and Terry, our evangelists. That's Pastor Charles that we gave the motorcycle to and prayed with. And these people are the folks that donated the land, if I remember correctly.
Right. They called this, our missionaries called this Nineveh.
Yeah, when we went there, they said, we're going today. When we said we're going to go witness, they said, we're going to where nobody wants to go. It's a modern-day Nineveh. I'm like, what? What?
And witchcraft is prevalent. And one of the ladies did not want to come. She didn't want to be born again because her mother and her two of her, I guess, nephews or something, they were, I would say, possessed. They were climbing trees and doing all kinds of things, and she didn't want to be born again because of that. But we explained to her that if she was born again, that she'd be able to pray for them, and God would listen to her, and He, if He so desired, He would help with her mother. She was very concerned about her mother.
So all of these places we went, we told them we were going to be showing the Jesus film that night, and we invited everybody to come. We want to make sure they didn't call it a movie, a cinema. We're going to be showing a cinema tonight is what the interpreter would tell them. And everybody said they were coming. So these ladies here, did I pull it up? Yes, they said they were all Christians, but they were coming to the movie anyway. So that's not the University of Georgia, that's a Uganda motorcycle tag. Every morning where we slept and stayed, I would get my coffee every morning and go out and stand at the street and just watch the people. I always like to watch people. You just see, especially in another country, you see some of the strangest things. This is a strange thing. This is 5 people on a motorcycle. That's 4 adults and the woman has a baby strapped to her back, if you can see it.
In this country, they strap babies to the back and wrap around the front.
You sure that wasn't in Gloverville?
That's good.
I'm talking about my family now.
You take offense. I'm sorry, I forgot where I was.
So this is in preparation for the Jesus film. People are already showing up. You can see it's still very daylight. They know the movie's not coming until it gets dark, but they started showing up early. And
Tarps are a really big item. It's the hot item.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a tarp, you just put the tarp out, people sit on it, and you have church.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is just some of the people that showed up. There's young girls with the babies on their back. And then this is just the very beginning of the Jesus film, just getting started. We set that screen up, and this projector is projected on the side of the bus. That was our bus. That was our glorious ride for many days. So after that, we started going to the Christian schools, and we had school supplies to give to the kids. They were happy to get a pencil or an eraser or anything you gave them. They were happy to get that. Some of the pictures from the schools.
Go back to that school. This school is where that church was, and the one that was enclosed.
The church where we gave the motorcycles and the bicycles.
Where you actually had 4 walls and a roof.
Mm-hmm.
But they had 2 different schools there. One was tailoring, and the other one was cosmetology.
Don't know if you can see their sewing machines, and they're the old pump type with your feet, but they teach them how to sew so they can go out and make things and make a living once they graduate from school. It's a 2-year course, they said. Yeah.
They have to pay to go to the school.
And this is just regular schools with kids. The kids were wonderful. As always, different classes. They were so glad to see us.
Kelly has a lovely hat also.
Okay, so on one night, we got to go to a radio station, and they asked Doug to present the gospel message over the air. They told how many thousands of people would hear it. And this was the radio station. We're in the broadcast booth. That's where that picture, that's the, what did they call it? They called him the moderator, didn't they? That's the DJ. And then this is the team that was in that booth. They had the pastors, the local pastors. There's a keyboard. They'll be singing and praising. All of that's a part of it, I think, here. And then it was an hour show. About the last 15 minutes, they took calls, and people were calling in, just thanking them for what they did. Somebody was prepared to commit suicide, they said, and after they heard the message, it changed their mind. So the kids...
He gave an evangelism message. I mean, he didn't have like a scripture that he was talking about. It was complete evangelism.
So we visited a lot of churches, like I said, and everywhere we went, they were so thankful for us to be there. They wanted to give us something. Each person on our team, they gave us something. This was Denise and I got a pumpkin. That's a pumpkin. And Denise got a box of sweet potatoes and what? Papayas. Yep. But our evangelist, they gave him a pigeon. He's like, what do I do with this? They said, just take it. They're giving it to you, just take it. So we got back to our hotel, and that's in the hotel on the ground floor. He said, what am I going to do with it? I can't get this thing on the airplane. I said, well, take it out and let it go. And they said, well, it's a pigeon. It'll go back where it came from. And they'll know you. So he ended up.
Plan for them, so they get it given and then get it back and give it again.
So he ended up giving it to one of the women, and I've got a picture of her at the end. Her name was Florence, and she was a part of the mission team that was already there. She was an indigenous woman, and they gave it to her. So that, and I told him, I said, Doug, what do you think happened to that pigeon? He said, I gave it to Florence. I said, man, she's eating that thing right now.
He was willing to let it go. He did not want any harm to come to that pigeon. Poor old man. He had to think about her eating that pigeon.
So this is a church service. We went here one day, and the weather got bad before we could get started, and we had to leave. And we went back, I guess it was the next day. All of this ran together, but we went back to the same place. Now, this is an outside church, and it's hot, and you can see they're trying to seek shade. That's Florence, yes. I got another picture of her. And then this is the children at that same location sang a song to us because they were in school. They had learned English, and they sang this song to us. And it's very special to us.
We will never forget you. My name is called Oscar. My friend name is called Lisha. I'm so loud. We will never forget you. We are dear vista to receive you. We are up and joy. I'm so loud. We will never forget you. We are dear vista to receive you. We are up and joy. I'm so loud. We will never forget you.
That yell they do, that just made the hair stand up on my neck. I didn't know if somebody was going to come out with a spear or what. Yeah, I kept pushing Denise that way. Let's go see what they're doing.
I can.
It's a sound that the women make, and it's for a purpose, and it's something to do with oppression, with female oppression. So they're like liberating yell.
So this is our team at the end of the week. We're getting ready to leave and head back home. Our trip back was much smoother, but we've aged about 3 or 4 years there. And then this is the same location, but many of the pastors came back to see us off. And the couple at the back, I don't know if you can see that well or not, but that's Rex and Melinda. That's who hosted us, and they've been there for 18 years. So that's pretty much our mission. There were some funny things that happened along the way, and one that comes to mind for me was when in these schools, the kids were just amazed that we were there. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. We stood out, and they couldn't believe that we'd come that far to see them. And we'd sit down and interact with them. Denise had a short sleeve shirt on, of course, and they'd come up and just rub her arm like that. 2 or 3 at a time, be rubbing her arms. And I'm like, what are they doing? I don't know.
We still don't know what they were doing.
And then one of the guys said that they were rubbing his wife's arm. That was Doug. That was the only other guy there. He said they were rubbing his wife's arm, and then when they wasn't looking, they'd smelled her hand to see what it smelled like. It was just the funniest thing.
Because they wasn't 3 days before, right?
Thank goodness it wasn't.
They wouldn't have done that but once.
Yeah, they wouldn't have liked that a bit.
But it was a great trip. We thank God for letting us go there and do this, and just feel like being a part of His hands and His feet when we get to go there and do that. And we just know that that transportation that was delivered is being used, even maybe today, which is probably morning over there now. But anyway, just like Denise said earlier, He's so good to let us do what we get to do, and we just thank Him for that. But I don't know if we could answer any questions. If anybody's got any questions, we'd try.
Those kids, when they get out of school and they get grown, what do they go to work? Is there any further education for them? Or
Where we were at, I didn't see any place to work. We see people selling stuff, like yard sale type stuff, like on bridges. You go over a river, and they'd be on the bridge, set up, just one right beside the other, just selling things they made. Didn't see any kind of industry, especially here.
Not in our area, not in that area.
Yeah.
they farming?
Very little. Not farming.
yeah,
They would grow stuff just that they could eat, because, yeah. But
But
we were in northern Uganda. Some of those pastors that are there came from South Sudan to be with us. We were pretty close to South Sudan.
They would just set up their own little business usually. Sometimes they could get in with someone else. But I mean, there are, maybe not particularly right in that location, but there are big areas that are, 8-10 hours away. But even in ladies, how it is, if you're going to do anything, you're going to get your hair done. So you'll get your hair cut, or you'll get something like that. And then they trade back and forth a lot of different products. They do a lot of bartering. But we really didn't see anything. I mean, we did see businesses, but they all look like Gloverville.
Very small, rustic. Even the city was remote.
See, and from what you're saying, y'all wasn't too far from where Christians are dying and being imprisoned in Sudan.
Sure.
See, South Sudan, North Sudan is run by the Arab Islamic regime.
Yep.
So basically, their whole life is centered around just surviving.
They're surviving. I asked that. I said, what is the average life expectancy here? And they said 47 years old. If someone lived to 47, they felt like they had lived a full life. And we saw people older than that, but that was just the life expectancy. They live a hard life. At 2 years old, they teach those children to go find firewood. At 2 years old, they send them out to find firewood. And again, I had pictures of motorcycles riding right in front of the hotel, holding 2 5-gallon water pails. They're going to get water. And that was the ones that could ride. Most people are walking. It's a hard, hard life.
Sometimes they'll walk 2 or 3 miles to a water pump. And, they'll be like out at a road, and they'll pump the water from, like an old-fashioned pump, and then take the water back on their head. So we're going to let us have that experience. But fortunately for me, it rained that day, and we didn't have to have that experience. So I could visualize it. I really didn't need to walk 2 miles to get water and put it on my head and walk back. And they do a lot of that type of stuff, and they're just really so happy to have the Lord in their lives, and they will do whatever they can to promote the gospel, most of these people. But I mean, they have so much oppression. But one of the things that stood out to me, that as a mother just terrorizes me, because he was talking about that long ride that we go in. You come like 2 hours. One of those girls that was in tailoring, wasn't it? Tailoring. She walked 18 miles to the school and 18 miles back every day. No transportation. So you can imagine she's walking 18 miles to school and 18 miles back. And when we left from the Jesus film, it had to be 9-something at night. And we're walking in the riding, and the roads are terrible, and you're having to move from one side to the other because the holes are so bad in the road. And then you have ditches on the side, and these little 4, 5, 7-year-old kids are walking in these ditches home. It's just heartbreaking.
But they love their churches, even if it's not a building. They love their church. You can see the love of Christ there, and they're so receptive to the gospel. That's what's so encouraging to me, that they want Jesus.
What did y'all eat?
I did pretty well. He didn't.
They they had a lady that cooked for us at the hotel, but everything tasted the same. I mean, like, you know, if you eat Mexican food, it all tastes.
All had the same spices.
It was a spice I didn't like. Like one night we'd have spaghetti. They called it spaghetti. I recognized the noodles, but the spaghetti sauce was like brown, and it tasted like the same thing we ate for lunch. And it was like, I started just eating noodles and rice. Sometimes plain rice and noodles. I think I lost like 5 pounds that week. Denise,
what do they eat? I mean, or their diet?
I don't know. Out in the real desolate places, I'm not sure what they eat.
Well, we did see them. They had okra plants. They had eggplants. So we did, and they have a lot of sesame seed plants with sesame seeds in them. Those were very interesting because you open that little pod and it's got four sides, you know, with the stem in the middle. So you've got seed, 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 and seed around it.
Hard to fill up on sesame seeds.
Very hard.
Hard to fill up on okra too.
Yeah.
Well, and they had banana plants. They're really big on sweet potatoes, but they don't look like our sweet potatoes. They're kind of like white, and their pumpkins are green, but they taste good.
Yeah. That pumpkin they gave me was just as green as it could be, and I said, "What are we going to do with that?" And Florence said, "It's ripe, it's ready," and we ate it that night, and it was good.
And the sweet potatoes are white. They weren't orange; they were white, so they were sweet potatoes.
Yeah, it was just an incredible trip, but these things sometimes are different. Well, they're all different in some aspects because you're in a different area. But always, everyone I've ever been on, it was just the people are always loving. They appreciate you being there. And the thing that amazes me is that they have the same prayer concerns that we do. They're praying for their children. They want their child to get a good education. Drugs and alcohol, even in places like this, drugs and alcohol is there. And I talked to...
What did it say about the moonshine?
Oh yeah, some of them make moonshine. That's
what they do for a living.
Some of them do, and it's well known.
And when they come to know the Lord, then they have to give up making moonshine. So it's really hard for them because that's where their money was coming from. They even did a skit for us, and it showed how the people were coming in and they were getting the moonshine and they were making it and they were going back and drinking, you know, and falling down all over the place. I mean, it was a full-blown skit. And then when they come to know the Lord, they're not doing that anymore. And then this one, they came back and tried to lead the lady who was making the moonshine to the Lord. So, but I mean, it's big. Between moonshine and witchcraft, it's a tough mission field.
It makes us appreciate what we have here at home. We don't have the persecution. We have, I mean, I'm inconvenienced. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. I'm inconvenienced. It would be for me. I feel inconvenienced if my power just goes out for an hour. I mean, they don't have any power. I don't know.
See, by the time she goes home, she gets out of school at, just say she gets out at 4 o'clock. 18 miles, it's pitch black, and you don't know what's out there beside you. You don't know if you're going to, I mean, we had some stories of girls being attacked on their way to and from school, being abused, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, I feel that
Find a happy note. Sorry.
your presentation, I already knew, but your presentation convinced me that this church, our church, is blessed to have you.
Wow, well, thank you.
You're an example of what all of us should be.
An example of our message that we had this morning.
Yeah. When he told me they went, I asked if they could do it because, you know, all the churches I pastored, I had people similar to this did something different than what you did. And it inspires people. There's things we can do around here, you know, that are different than what we... Yeah, and you can support missions like this, and just like I mentioned, Brick. See, I got involved with Brick this summer, and I was amazed at, you know, the opportunities for witnessing and the work that's done. And Brian up at First Baptist Jackson, you know, him and another pastor down, you know, black minister, they got this organization going. And that's a good ministry. You know. And, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all were part of it. That's right. Y'all did do that. So it's
very
it's
nice.
everywhere. It's just getting involved, and then it helps you as a Christian. Besides just talking about being a Christian, you're actually doing something.
Yeah. We also feel blessed to be here.
Very much.
It was so ironic how it happened. I think everybody knows my son was in a really bad motorcycle accident, and then it was like the devil meant for bad, God turned to good. He came back to the Lord because of that. He should have died, and it was a miracle he lived. And he wanted to get back in church, but he didn't want to go where we were going because we weren't happy where we were going. He had been going there for decades, and we're just toughing it out, and it was just, we were miserable. And we told him, we said, we'll come with you the first couple of times just to make you, you'll know somebody there, you'll know us. And we came in the door and people greeted us that I hadn't seen in years. And I'd met Ken through the bread. He'd be coming getting the bread from where I was at for the animals. And he was bragging on you guys.
Yes,
he said,
he did.
To come. He said, we love our church. He said, we got young people coming with kids. And that's what I needed to hear because that's where my son was at. He didn't want to go to church where a bunch of people like me and Denise were, you know. And yeah, they did. And he told me how much he enjoyed it this morning too, out in the parking lot. But, you know, and we kept coming back. And there was, the first Sunday we were here, I think it was communion. No, he was preaching on the 10 Commandments. And that was something we really needed to hear because that, well, I won't go into that, but that was something we needed. It was confirmation that something was going on here. And God kept tugging and tugging. And then y'all just reached out to us and y'all loved on us and you loved on my family. And God has amazing ways of doing things. I'm so glad we're here. Yeah. Thank you.
You said the couple
Say that again.
The missionaries that hosted us.
It was a brand new hotel. Nobody had ever stayed in it before. And they put everybody on the second floor. This is really weird. They put everybody on the second floor. They ran out of rooms and they said, well, do y'all want to go up a floor or down? We did go up, didn't we? We went to 3.
They were on 3rd floor.
Oh yeah, I said let's go down because I didn't want to climb. There was no elevator, it was stairs. But it was really nice. It was not ready for people. It didn't have one piece of furniture in it. We had a bed and we had a bathroom. I should have took pictures of the bathroom. Now that sounds weird, but you got a toilet and a shower right beside it. There's no shower curtain. You just take a shower right and it's right there. I mean, it was just the strangest.
And the sink. And ours didn't. No.
It had a fan.
Ours didn't work. So we had to use the bathroom in the room next to us because our shower didn't work. And the electricity goes out repeatedly during the day. So we did have a fan in the room, but they told us to bring a little portable fan because electricity goes out for hours at a time. And then we had the mosquito netting, which was good. But it was a brand new hotel, and we were, like I said, first ones in there. No mirrors, no nothing. Okay.
She putting on makeup with no mirror. That was neat. And I said, yeah, that looks good. Let's go.
That bed, the bed was this hard. If you slept on this right here, same thing.
But we slept because we were tired.
And they thought those were great beds. Because I mean, considering that's a Taj Mahal, considering what they lived in and what they slept in. Yes.
You know, I noticed their clothes look pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they make wonderful clothes too, and they get a lot of clothes. Yes.
Kelly, all the traveling that y'all did to get
Yes.
what was the logistics of getting the bikes and motorcycles there?
That was when first trip I went on. I said the same thing. What do? We buy them and ship them there, or what? I always buy them at the location where you're going. There's just multiple reasons for that. If you ship them there, there's the taxes on it is just incredible. If you do business there, the country likes you. You're spending money in their country. You're giving them a motorcycle that can be serviced there. And when they get these motorcycles, they get a year of service. They got the tags, license, insurance, everything. We equip them with that the first year. But if we gave them, let's just say we gave them a Honda. I ride a Honda. And we gave them and the only thing there was a Yamaha shop or something like that. They couldn't even get service. So they're always bought there. That's a great question. I had the same question myself.
Oh yeah,
but it's very
plenty
expensive.
of gas.
Oh, that gas was what, like $8 a gallon? It was really high. They didn't sell it by the gallon, they sold it by the liter. And it was, $1 was 3,000, what was our currency? It wasn't rupees, what was it?
How available was gas?
It was available, it was just very expensive. It was about $8 a gallon.
The best thing to have.
Yeah. Oh, it's a tremendous tool, yeah.
That's terrible. I've already forgotten what it was.
See, the
What
way
were
that
they?
was fixed up, I could drive one of those.
Yeah.
A tricycle.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Two things. Annette wants to ask a question, and Miss Sandra, Miss Norris, the host are the MVI missionaries. Those were the host. So the missionary ventures, the ones who are partners with CMA and get 20% of the funds, they are the ones who have missionaries there on the ground, and they are the ones that host it. Annette?
And all of these pastors are.
Yes.
Right. That's right. And the local missionaries, they know all of these network that work with those missionaries, and that's who gets the transportation. And because you could only do 6 motorcycles, they make sure it goes to the 6 that's going to use it the most. That is sound in their Christianity.
They've been vetted.
There's been motorcycles taken back before because people with
What is their religion other than Christianity?
Well, they've got all types.
Catholic was big,
well,
wasn't it?
They're Catholics, but I mean, as far as not being Christian, but besides Protestants and Catholics, it's a multitude of different religions.
Most of those African tribes are what we call animists, which means they believe that life is in everything. So they have ancestor worship, and they believe that their ancestors are important to them. You know, you mentioned the girl about her mother, and how you treat your living descendant. You know, what's the family, and then in the next life, you know, you look back and they remember. But the spirits are a big thing.
Big.
A big thing, and I don't know about that particular area, but in some of the Western tribes, from what I've read, the color blue is very important to keeping spirits away. Light colored blues and deep blues.
Yeah.
And so you see a lot of color. I noticed he had a bright blue shirt on, but it depends on what part of Africa you're in. But they're mostly what we call animism, which means all other tribes are. Their ancestors are important. They worship spirits. You know, they believe in casting spirits on people. Usually have a witch doctor in the tribe.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Denise from the valley to Uganda. What a girl.
I remember
they didn't have anything there they hadn't already seen before.
Easy, forget where you're at. In those families that we were ministering to personally, there was this one woman, and she was just locked down. She just wasn't going to do it. And Denise asked the translator, she said, can I speak to her? She asked permission because they want the man to speak. And he said, yeah, go ahead. So she appealed to her as a mother. She had 2 children, and she was holding the baby, I think, wasn't she? She had 2 small children. They were all right there. And she appealed to her as a mother. As a mother, don't you want what's best for your children?
Don't you want your children safe?
Yeah, tell them what you said.
I can't tell her exactly what I said, but one of the things that I know that a lot of mothers are concerned about is your child safe? Are they, are they going to heaven when they die? Are they safe? Not just physically safe, but are they spiritually safe? And so that's what I appealed to her on. She wanted them physically safe, but I knew she wanted them spiritually safe also.
And she accepted Christ right there. Just because we changed what we were doing. Doing the same thing doesn't always work. Just from one little village, maybe, I don't know, 300 or 400 yards down the road, down the path, you encounter something that wasn't working, and then let Denise speak to her, and she got a breakthrough. I don't know. We learned some stuff.
We did. We're way past time.
Okay.
I'm the
Thank you again.
wrap-upper.